He wasn't my real dad, but he sure knew how to destroy a family. She said it with a smile, in front of everyone. The kids heard it. I heard it. And what I found in her suitcase that night, it changed everything. What she did with her stepfather. I still can't believe it. A few Thursdays back, just like any other hectic morning, I was caught up in the usual scramble of getting our two kids ready for school. It was around 7:30, and the house was buzzing with the kind of energy that only kids bring when you are running late. Right in the middle of the madness, the phone rang loud and sharp, cutting through the noise like a knife. I paused for a moment, curious who would be calling so early. The number on the caller ID had a strange area code, one I didn't recognize. That just made me more curious. "Hello," I answered, cautious but calm, holding the phone up to my ear. To my surprise, it was Claire, my wife, on the other end. I found it odd because we had just spoken the night before. Claire works for a small marketing company, and her job keeps her moving around a lot. I, on the other hand, work from home and take care of the kids. I used to work at a printing shop downtown, but these days, managing the house and freelancing from home fits our life better. Somehow, despite the different schedules, we made it all work and lived pretty comfortably. We have a nice 4-bedroom house out in the suburbs with a pool, and we are lucky to have good friends around us. Anyway, Claire told me that the night before, she went down to the hotel lobby to grab a newspaper, and her purse got stolen. "I need you to cancel all of our credit cards right now," she said, her voice a little shaky. "Also, order replacements as soon as you can. I already spoke to Joy, my boss, and she's having new American Express cards overnight to me. I need them before I head out tomorrow. She's also sending over some money to help me get by." That caught me off guard. Claire was usually the careful one. "What happened?" I asked, trying to wrap my head around it. "Well, I wasn't really thinking," she admitted. "I left my purse at the front counter while I went to grab more reading material. When I came back, it was gone. The cashier said she was helping someone else and didn't notice anything strange." She sighed. "My driver's license was in there too. The hotel sent a couple of folks to check the dumpsters nearby, just in case. If they do not find it, I might have to rely on a cab to get to today's meeting," she added. "Don't worry, I will take care of the cards right now," I told her. "I am really sorry I slipped up like that," she said. "Aside from maybe $200 in my wallet, we should not be out much. The rest we can replace slowly. At least most of my makeup was still in the room, so I will be ready for tomorrow's presentation." Then she asked how the kids were doing. She said she missed all of us. That call took place about 6 weeks ago. Thankfully, I acted quickly and got all the cards canceled before anyone could use them. But her wallet, with her license and other important things, never turned up. I pushed the worry aside and we went back to our routine. But today, something happened that I cannot shake. While going through some paperwork, looking for our home insurance documents, I came across a folder with monthly statements from Claire's Fidelity investment account. She had inherited a good amount of money when her parents passed away in a tragic accident a few years back. I had always respected her privacy about that account and never poked around in it before. But when I found the statements, curiosity got the best of me. I remembered that the inheritance had been around $350,000 at the time. I was surprised to see it had grown to more than $400,000 now. But what really caught my attention was a $3,000 withdrawal from the money market part of the account. That transaction had happened just a few days after she reported her purse stolen. I started wondering, what did she spend that money on? So, I kept digging, and that is when I saw it. She had written a check for $3,000 to a jewelry store located right in the city where she said her purse was stolen. That set off some alarm bells. Claire had never mentioned buying jewelry. Nothing for me, and I had not heard her talk about buying anything fancy for anyone else either. She has a brother, sure, but I could not imagine her dropping $3,000 on him out of nowhere. Curious, I looked up the store's website, found their phone number, and decided to call. A woman answered, polite and professional, asking how she could help me. I told her my name and said I was following up on a purchase. I explained we had a problem with the item and wanted to know if the store offered any kind of warranty. She typed around for a bit, then asked about the issue with the rings. That caught me completely off guard. "What rings?" I asked myself silently. But then she went on. "Oh yes," she said. I remember her visit clearly. She was very upset. She told us her wedding ring and engagement ring had been stolen and she needed to replace them. It was not easy to find the right fit for her, but we worked with her until we found something close. She used a company credit card to hold the purchase and sent a personal check later. Then she said something about their 90-day warranty covering loose diamonds or similar problems. I was stunned. Claire never told me the rings were missing. She only mentioned her purse being stolen. And now I was hearing she had gone and replaced both wedding and engagement rings, without saying a word to me. I paused for a moment and said, "Look, I need to talk to my wife about this before I do anything else. I'll get back to you later." The woman seemed a little confused, but I ended the call. Honestly, I was more confused than she was. If the rings had really been in her purse when it was stolen, why had she taken them off in the first place? She never did that before. It made no sense, unless she wanted to hide the fact she was married. There was no reason, professionally, for her to pretend she was single. So why would she do it? A horrible thought started forming in the back of my mind. Was she planning to cheat on me? Was she already doing it? The idea made me feel physically sick. Claire and I had been married for 11 years. We have 2 amazing kids. Jeremy is 7 and Melissa is 6. I always thought we had a strong marriage, a beautiful family. Life at home felt good to me. I believed we were happy. Claire travels once a month for work. She usually stays away for 2 or 3 nights in different cities. If she were ever going to cross a line, that would be her chance. Now it looked like losing the rings had really shaken her. She went and bought ones that looked nearly identical. Those rings. I bought them back when I did not have much money, and even though they were not fancy, they meant everything to me. They meant everything to us. She could have filed a claim with the insurance company. If her purse had really been stolen, she had every reason to. But she never mentioned doing that either. She really should have reported the theft, officially. That thought just kept gnawing at me. I started to wonder what exactly she told them was missing. I figured the best way to find out was to contact the hotel myself. So I looked up their number and gave them a call. I asked if they had any documentation on a stolen purse, one that belonged to my wife. To my surprise, they said yes. There was a written incident report on file. I asked them to send me a copy, and within a short while, it came through on the fax. It was Claire's handwriting. She had written and signed the report herself. But the story she gave them did not match the one she told me. According to her statement, the purse was taken while she was out on the dance floor. She had left it at the booth where she had been sitting, and when she came back to the table, it was gone. But what really threw me off was the part where she specifically stated that she did not want to involve the police. As I read the report, my thoughts started racing. None of it lined up. She had not only lied to me about how the purse went missing, she had also made up a totally different version of events for the hotel staff. Now, maybe there was some other explanation. I tried to think of one, but nothing made sense. My mind kept circling around one dark possibility after another. I realized I would never have peace until I understood what the real story was, especially about those rings. They kept gnawing at me, refusing to let me rest. The more I thought about it, the more certain I became. Those rings were in her purse when she got up to dance, with someone I did not know. It had been several weeks since all this happened, and now another business trip was coming up. I felt like I needed to know more. What exactly did she do when she was away from home in the evenings? Was she meeting someone? Someone new? Or someone familiar? Maybe losing the rings had shaken her up. Maybe it made her rethink some of her choices. I clung to that hope, but I also knew that if I found out she had been cheating, that would be the end of us. It broke my heart to think about it. She was a wonderful mother, no question, but I could not stand the idea of her being the one to raise our kids full-time if it all fell apart, especially with how often she traveled. My mind started spinning, trying to figure out how to find the truth. Were there any other signs? Any clues she might have left behind? If she had been with other men, did she take precautions? I figured she would have to. She would not risk bringing home a disease, or worse, getting pregnant. That would blow everything up. But then again, I had a vasectomy after our second child, so getting pregnant with me was off the table. So if she was using protection, she must have had her own stash. But where did she keep it? I doubted she left anything like that lying around the house. And the car did not seem like a good place either. No, it had to be the office. She probably packed it in her luggage when she traveled, maybe kept it in her work briefcase. That briefcase was always with her. She carried it for presentations, laptops, work papers, all the important stuff. When she had an early flight, she usually brought it home the night before, so it would be ready to go in the morning. That detail stuck with me. I knew I had to wait for a moment when she brought the briefcase home before a trip. If I was going to look inside, that would be my only chance. I forced myself to stay cool, not let on that anything was bothering me. That afternoon, when the kids got back from school, the house got busy fast. I had dinner to prepare, backpacks to sort through, messes to clean. My suspicions got buried for a little while under the everyday chaos. When Claire came home from work, I was in the kitchen dealing with a minor disaster. I had spilled a dish of beans all over the floor, and I was scrambling to clean it up while trying to help the kids with their homework. I must have looked like a mess, sweaty, flustered, totally out of sorts. Luckily, she did not seem to notice anything strange about me. After everything calmed down and the floor was clean again, I gave her a quick kiss on the cheek, like always. We sat down for dinner as a family, talking about our days, just like we usually did. I did not think she suspected a thing. So, I said casually, "You have another trip coming up soon, right?" She nodded, not very excited. "Yeah, same thing as always. Honestly, I'm not really looking forward to it." I leaned in, pushing a little. "If you are not enjoying it, have you thought about asking for a different role? You have been with the company for a while now, and you know how everything works. I bet you could do just about anything there." She told me she was hoping to get more experience under her belt before moving into a desk job. I decided to appeal to her softer side, thinking about the kids. "You know," I said, "we really miss you when you're gone." She looked at me, a little sad. "I know," she said. "I miss you all too." Still trying to get details, I kept going. "Where are you headed this time? Are you leaving in the morning? Or do we have a little time before you go?" I could tell the kids were listening, so I tried to keep things light and calm. But my stomach was in knots. I had barely touched my food. I wondered if she felt sick too, but she was eating, just not enjoying it much. Maybe I was overthinking everything. Or maybe not. Either way, I could not shake the feeling that I had to check that briefcase. She said, "I'm going to Denton. I'll leave tomorrow morning, around 7:30. Just need to power through until Friday." She smiled and gave me a little wink when she said that. I smiled back, doing my best to play along like nothing was wrong. To my surprise, she actually blushed a little. That wink told me something important. If she was bringing her briefcase home that night, she probably was not planning to stop by the office in the morning. That meant her bag would already be packed and sitting somewhere in the house or out in the car. From how relaxed she seemed around me and the kids, you would never guess anything was going on. Maybe nothing was. Or maybe she had just gotten good at hiding it. Later that evening, when I got the chance to look inside that briefcase, I hoped I would find the truth. When Claire came home that night, she seemed happier than usual. She parked right next to my car in the garage and came in with a bounce in her step. I could not tell if she was feeling good because of something I said, or if there was another reason behind her mood. She walked into the kitchen without her briefcase, which made me think it was still in the car. I was already prepping dinner, so we sat down together soon after. At one point she casually said, "Hey, can you grab my suitcase from the garage once we finish eating?" "Sure," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled and asked, "All ready for the trip?" "Yeah," she replied. "Just the usual. The briefcase is in the car, packed and good to go. I'll throw together an overnight bag before bed." Trying to keep things feeling normal, I asked her casually, "Got any plans while you're away?" She smiled a bit and said, "No, nothing out of the ordinary. You and the kids will probably stick to the usual routine, right? Maybe we can plan something fun for the weekend when I'm back." "That sounds good," I said, and I meant it, even if my heart wasn't in it. After dinner, she helped me clear the plates and load up the dishwasher like she always did. Then she said she was going to the bedroom to pack, and I headed out to the garage to grab her suitcase. I checked inside her car first, but her briefcase wasn't there. That told me she had likely locked it in the trunk. I had been expecting that, so I already had a plan in mind. I would wait until later that evening to get into it. When I came back inside carrying her suitcase, I kept my tone light. "Hey, do you know where the car keys are? I think one of the tires is leaking a little air. I was thinking about running it over to the station. Jerry can fix it quick." She looked confused for a second, then reached into her purse and handed me the keys. "Why not just use the spare?" she asked. "That's what it's for." I shook my head. "Yeah, but the spare's for emergencies. We've got time to get it done right, so I'd rather fix it now." Before she could question it further, I turned and headed out fast. I backed her car out of the garage and drove it to the local station. Jerry, a guy I went to high school with, ran the place now. I pulled up in front of one of the service bays and gave the horn a quick tap. Jerry heard it and opened the bay door, waving me in. He shut it behind me and walked over, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's up, man?" he asked. I scratched the back of my neck. I told Claire I was fixing the tire, but really, I need a little time to check something else. Jerry gave me a knowing look. Trouble at home? Maybe, I admitted. I popped the trunk and pulled out her briefcase, setting it carefully on a bench. I undid the latches and opened it slowly. Jerry nodded toward the little office behind the station. I've got a customer to deal with. Take your time, buddy. Thanks, I said quietly. Once he was gone, I started going through the briefcase, careful not to mess anything up or move things around too much. I checked all the pockets and zippered flaps. At first, nothing stood out, until I found a small package tucked into one of the inside compartments. As soon as I pulled it out, I felt a pit open in my stomach. It was a small package of medication. Some doses were missing. Right then, it all became real. I just stood there for a moment, staring at the package in my hand. My heart was pounding. I carefully slid it back into its spot, closed up the briefcase, and returned it to the trunk, exactly the way I found it. Jerry walked back in. So, did you find what you were looking for? Yeah, I said quietly, voice tight. I found it. You good to hang out a little longer? I asked, not ready to go home just yet. Maybe check the tire pressure while I pretend I actually cared about the tire? He gave me a look, curious but respectful, and nodded. Sure thing, man. He handled the tire while I slowly pulled out of the bay. I stopped at a gas station nearby and filled her tank, not even sure why. Maybe because I did not know when I would be doing it for her again. Driving home, my head was a mess. I was thankful for Jerry's help, but my thoughts were getting darker by the mile. Anger, hurt, confusion. It all came crashing down at once. How could she do this to us? To our kids? To me? But somewhere beneath the storm, I knew I had to stay focused. I had to think about our children and how to protect them. If things came apart, I needed proof. I needed a solid case for custody. As much as she had failed me as a wife, she was still a good mother. I knew a judge would give her visitation, no doubt. But I wanted full legal custody. The kids deserved stability. They deserved better. Eventually, she would have to explain what happened. To her brother. To our friends. When I got back to the house, I called out from the bedroom, trying to sound normal. All set. Just a nail in the tire. Nothing serious. Okay. Thanks, she called back. Her voice was flat, and she didn't look up when I passed by. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and went into the family room. The kids were curled up watching television. I sat with them, letting the simple quiet distract me for a little while. About half an hour later, Claire came in and sat down next to me. She leaned in close and rested her head on my shoulder. Then she whispered, "Are you ready for tonight?" I took a sip of beer, trying to steady myself. I think so, but I've got kind of a stomach ache. She pulled back slightly, gave me a sympathetic look. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Then she gently wrapped her arms around me and said softly, I love you. I put my arm around her, my heart a mess of emotions. I still felt something for her, some trace of love, but it was buried under everything she had done. Why had she done it? For the thrill? For attention? For something she thought I could not give her anymore? I had no answers. All I knew was that the trust we once had was gone. Later, we tucked the kids into bed together. She kissed them goodnight like nothing had changed. I watched her, knowing that when morning came, she would be gone. The kids were used to her traveling, so they did not seem upset. That night, we shared a moment together, but the connection felt distant, like something had shifted. She noticed something was off and asked, Is your stomach still hurting, sweetheart? I nodded slowly. Yeah, but I can manage. What I really wanted to ask was, will you stay? Will you choose us over that trip? Instead, I just said, do you really have to go? She sighed and looked at me with something like guilt. I am sorry, babe. I really have to. I'll try to wrap things up early and get back as soon as I can. I'm looking forward to spending the weekend with you and the kids. I nodded. Okay, we should get some sleep. You've got an early flight. I'll take a shower now so I do not have to rush in the morning, she said. All right, I replied as she stepped into the bathroom. As soon as I heard the water running, I opened her suitcase. I told myself I just wanted to see what she had packed. The clothes on top looked normal, blazers, skirts, slacks. Nothing flashy. Business attire, just like you would expect. But I kept looking. As I looked through her suitcase a little more closely, something caught my eye that hit me like a punch to the gut. Tucked beneath her usual business clothes was a black cocktail dress, the one she always wore when she wanted to turn heads, and an outfit clearly meant for something more than a business trip. It was the kind of stuff she only wore when she really wanted to impress. I did not touch anything more than I had to. I carefully folded everything back into place, shut the suitcase, and walked quietly back to the bedroom. That night, I could not sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, mind racing, stomach in knots. Around 5 in the morning, I heard her stirring. I stayed in bed, silent, pretending to still be asleep. As always, before she left, she leaned down and kissed me on the cheek. "Still not feeling well, honey?" she whispered. I just nodded without saying a word. I could not bring myself to speak. A few minutes later, I heard the garage door open and then close again. That was it. She was gone. I finally sat up, then headed for the shower, trying to wash off the ache that had settled deep in my chest. I knew this was going to be a hard day. After getting the kids ready for school and sitting through a quiet breakfast, I pulled out the yellow pages and started looking under private investigation services. I wanted a firm with experience and, ideally, one with a branch near where Claire had flown. After a handful of phone calls, I found a company that had a local office in Denton, the city where Claire had gone. I scheduled an appointment for that morning. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. Next, I made another important call, this time to a divorce attorney. A buddy of mine had mentioned a guy he trusted, so I tracked down his number and set up a meeting for that afternoon. I was hoping he could walk me through what came next. That morning, I drove to the detective agency's office and sat down with the investigator. I laid everything out, my suspicions, the inconsistencies, and what I had seen in her suitcase. I gave them a photo of Claire and details about her hotel, flight, and usual schedule. They agreed to start surveillance that evening. They told me they would do their best to take photographs and document everything, but they could not promise results. It all depended on what she actually did. I gave them a healthy retainer up front and told them I just needed the truth. We agreed that once the Denton office had the report ready, they would email it to the local branch, and I could come in for the full summary. I left there feeling both nervous and strangely relieved. At least something was in motion now. That afternoon, I met with the divorce lawyer. He explained how things worked in our state. Divorces are handled on a no-fault basis, so I would not need to prove she cheated to file. But since I was the primary caregiver for our kids, the odds of me getting full custody were strong. He said Claire would almost certainly have regular visitation, and that was fair. I knew she loved the kids, even if she had failed me as a wife. He also walked me through the rest. Property would be split evenly. Since our incomes were pretty close, spousal support, or alimony, would not be required either. But because I would likely have custody, Claire might end up paying child support. He asked about her inheritance. I told him I did not want any of it. That money was hers. It came from her parents. I had no interest in taking it. I asked him to draft the divorce papers and have them delivered Monday morning, citing irreconcilable differences. I also requested that Claire be asked to move out of the house immediately after the filing. He told me that as the custodial parent, I had the right to make that request. We agreed that the house would be sold once the kids turned 18, and the proceeds would be split down the middle. As I left the lawyer's office, I felt calm. Sad, yes, but also like I had a direction now. A way forward. A future for me and the kids. Claire had made her choices. Now she would have to face the consequences. I had not moved on the financial side of things just yet. Joint accounts, insurance, paperwork. But I figured I still had some time to take care of that after the papers were served. Claire would still have her inheritance. She would not need anything from me. Later that week, on Friday, I was home when the kids got off the bus. Claire came home not long after. I offered to take care of her laundry, just being polite, but she smiled and said she would do it herself. I smirked to myself. Of course she would. She could not risk me finding something. That night in bed, she mentioned my stomach again. Said I really ought to see a doctor. It had been bothering me too long. I played along, telling her a friend had recommended something new. Said I was going to try it and see if it helped. I even joked that maybe it would bring her back to me sooner. She hugged me tightly. I missed you, she whispered. Monday came. The kids left for school. Claire left for work. I waited. Not long after, the phone rang. It was the detective agency. They had the report. I told them I'd be there soon. Within 30 minutes, I was sitting across from their office manager, who had a folder in his hand. He said the Denton branch had faxed everything over that morning. He had not read it in full yet, but from what he had seen, it looked bad. He slid the report across the desk to me. The cover page had Claire's full name, Claire Barton. The report said surveillance began at 5:17 in the evening on Wednesday, June 24th, in the lobby of the Denton Marriott Hotel. Her identity was confirmed using a photo from the Merrickville office, and she was wearing her company badge when she walked in. That detail left no doubt. She had her briefcase in hand as she stepped into the elevator. A staff member escorted her to her room, room 651, and she entered alone at 5:38 p.m. There was even a photo attached, labeled Exhibit 1A. It showed her dressed in business clothes, still wearing her rings. It looked like it was taken quickly, probably with a cell phone, through a hallway crack or slightly ajar door. The agents had booked a room across the hall to keep an eye on her movements. At 6:29 p.m., they received word that she had exited her room. A minute later, she appeared in the lobby. Another photo, Exhibit 1B, showed her dressed in the black cocktail dress I had found in her suitcase, paired with high heels and the necklace I gave her on our 10th anniversary. But what stood out the most, clear as day, was that her wedding rings were gone. Her left hand was bare. According to the report, the detectives had secured a room directly across from Claire's. At exactly 6:32 in the evening, she was seen stepping off the elevator and into the hotel lobby. Just like in the previous photo, Exhibit 1B, she was wearing that black cocktail dress, high heels, and the necklace I had given her for our 10th anniversary. But what hit me hardest was what she wasn't wearing, her wedding rings. The photo made that painfully clear. Her left hand was bare. Another image, labeled Exhibit 1D, showed Claire sitting in a booth with a man. They were unusually close, sharing a moment that felt far more personal than just conversation. And it was unmistakable. The report logged that at 8:58 p.m., the two of them left the restaurant together, got on the elevator, and went up to Claire's floor. Exhibit 1E caught the exact moment they walked into her hotel room, room 651. Claire looked tipsy in that photo, her eyes heavy, her smile wide. She looked happy. At 11:21 p.m., the man left her room and exited the hotel. The investigators recorded his license plate and traced it back to a man named Alexander B. Tate. He lived on Azalea Drive in Denton. Married. 2 kids. And just when I thought it could not get any worse, the report went on to say Claire did the same thing again the following night, with a different man. The report was signed and confirmed by the lead investigator out of Denton. I felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. I was angry, furious, and devastated. She wasn't just having an affair. She was leading a double life. While I stayed home raising our kids, she was spending her nights away from home with people I did not know, lying to my face, and pretending we still had a marriage worth saving. Even losing her rings hadn't made her pause. After paying the detective agency and thanking them for their work, I asked for 2 extra copies of the report, which they saved onto a compact disc. I wanted backup, just in case. I drove straight home and called my divorce lawyer. I asked if the papers were ready. He said yes. Go ahead and file them, I told him. And I want her served at her job. He hesitated a moment, but I made myself clear. I wanted her to feel the shame of what she had done. She had turned our lives into a circus. Let her coworkers see her get those papers. Maybe then she would realize how deeply she had hurt the people who loved her. The lawyer asked for her workplace address, and I gave it to him right away. He said it would be handled by the next day. That night, things between us were cold. Claire seemed to pick up on my mood. Maybe she could tell something had changed. She did not ask, though. She just said she hoped I was feeling better. I said nothing. In the morning, I got up early, barely having slept. I kept busy on my computer while the kids were still in bed. Eventually, I heard them stirring, so I got up, made breakfast, and packed their things for school. Claire came into the kitchen looking uneasy. She tried to hug me and kiss me on the cheek, but I gave her only a light, half-hearted squeeze in return. Better get going, I told her gently, like it was no big deal. But I saw something shift in her eyes. Maybe she had a feeling. When I closed the front door behind her, she paused. Her eyes filled with tears. And just before stepping off the porch, she whispered, "I love you." I stood there for a moment after the door shut, feeling the weight of everything crash into me. I wanted to cry, God. I needed to cry, but I didn't have time. The kids needed me, and I had to stay strong for them. A few hours later, around 10:38 a.m., the phone rang. The caller ID showed Claire's office. I answered, but said nothing. There was silence on the other end at first. Then I heard her voice, quiet, shaking. "I'm sorry," she said. Then the line went dead. She did not come home that night. I was not sure if she was out with someone else again or just trying to avoid facing me. Either way, I did not care. The kids were confused, asking where their mom was. I did my best to distract them. Took them out for dinner at a McDonald's. It was simple, but it helped lift their spirits. Once we got home, they were tired and went straight to bed. I sat alone for a while, thinking. The next morning, Claire called. Her voice was soft. Honey, can I come home and pack my things? Can we talk? For a second, I felt a flicker of guilt, but it faded fast. You can come between 9 and noon, I said. The kids and I won't be here. As for talking, we will have that conversation in my lawyer's office after you sign and notarize the divorce papers. Then I'll listen to what you have to say. She sniffled, holding back tears. Good, she said quietly. And the call ended. She signed the divorce papers, and 6 months later, it was over. During that time, I found out she had gotten pregnant during the affair. She tried to hide it from the guy, but contraception had failed. She was pushing the edge of her childbearing years, and the truth would have come out eventually, even if the rings hadn't set everything in motion. There were rumors going around that she was dating again. Part of me wanted to warn whoever was next in line, to tell them who she really was. But I knew that was not my battle anymore. We did sit down once more at the lawyer's office. She pleaded with me to stop the divorce. Said not having full access to the kids was tearing her up. I listened. I let her talk. But then I told her the truth. I just can't trust you, I said. She told me she had spoken to a therapist about struggling with certain behaviors and impulses. She claimed she was getting help, that her impulses were now under control. But I was not buying it. If you knew you had a problem, I told her, why didn't you get help before this happened? She didn't have an answer. If she had taken action early, maybe things would have turned out differently. But she didn't. She chose this path, and now she had to live with it. As I left the office, she was still crying. A while later, I reconnected with an old friend from school. Turns out he works at a nightclub now. He keeps me up to date on things, like where she goes, who she talks to. Not because I ask him to, just because he cares. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, a buddy of mine, someone I went to school with who now works security at a popular nightclub, reached out to me. He said he had seen Claire there several weekends in a row. She's showing up with different guys each time, he said. Dressed to get attention. Acting pretty wild. Hearing that hit me harder than I expected. It was painful, knowing that the mother of my children was out there behaving recklessly, chasing the same chaos that had destroyed our marriage. Maybe the issues she once mentioned about struggling with certain impulses was not something she had ever truly gotten under control. Then, out of nowhere, one of Claire's old friends called me. I had not spoken to her in years. She sounded concerned and told me Claire was not doing well physically or emotionally. She mentioned Claire was going through something that affected her emotionally and physically. Apparently, she was still living that same lifestyle, hookups, parties, no real stability. Her friend said Claire needed help. I listened, but I kept my feelings in check. I'm sorry she's hurting, I said. But I can't help her. I'm not in that place anymore. The truth was, Claire made her choices. And those choices came with consequences. I had my own life to live. My priority was the kids and myself. Around that same time, I started seeing someone new. She's close to my age, and like me, she's been through the ringer. Her ex-husband cheated on her, and when she found out, she walked away. No drama, just strength and self-respect. There's something about her I really admire. She carries herself with dignity. She's kind but firm. Strong, but not cold. And best of all, my kids seem to really like her. It feels good. Natural. Like something real is finally taking root again. For the first time in a long time, I'm starting to believe in the idea of love again. Maybe this is what healing looks like. And who knows, if things keep going the way they have been, I might just be ready to take that next step.